Hello and welcome. I'm Rahna Barthelmess, and I'm here to help you get your branding edge. Today is February 4th, 2015, and this is the monthly Q&A call when you can ask any question about either the Target Audience Profile Builder or our signature personal branding course. Whether you're listening live or listening to the recording, I'm so glad you're here. So if you have a question, please just let me know. I do have several questions that were also sent ahead of time, and so I'm going to try and get to those as well. The first question I have is, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm trying to figure out whether to focus on my personal brand or my company brand. What should I focus on? So this is a question that has come up several different times, and what I would say is, it depends on whether you are trying to build you as a brand or whether you are a company. You said you're an entrepreneur, and so are you building a company where you want to build up that company and then step out of the organization, eventually sell it to someone or whatever? In that case, I would focus on the brand, on the company brand. But if you're more like a solopreneur, you're a coach or something where it is very reliant on you, well, then you might have more focus on your personal brand. This is one of those where it's a question of balance. So if you are a solopreneur, but you have a company, you may need to spend a little bit of time on your company, but have your name, your face, your likeness very prominent in all of your marketing materials. So this has been a question that's come up recently in a Facebook group that I'm in, where there's a woman who is a coach, but she helps people with organization, and so the declutter coach is what she's called. So in that case, I wouldn't get rid of Declutter Coach. I think her website is decluttercoach.com. I wouldn't get rid of that. I would just say that in the marketing materials that her face should be very prominent, very front and center. Her name should be front and center. And I would definitely, since that is an established website, I would keep the website, but just in the marketing materials, make sure that you're promoting who you are. And so the same applies to you. If your business is going to be you and you're going to be very prominent, then focus on you. But if it's more you're trying to sell a product or a service where it's more important that the company name be known, well, then I would focus on that. I was talking to a private client recently, and they were talking about how they have two different brands that they are managing, and they are totally different, different industries, different worlds, different target audiences. And so in that case, she really needs to focus on the brand, the company brand, or the product brand that she is developing, because everything will not be tied to her, because she would obviously be associated with both of those things. Both of those things would come up online, and so therefore her efforts should be more on the company or the product brand that she's trying to develop. So I hope that's helpful. So, okay, this next question, what if I have multiple unrelated brands? Okay. Managing many brands is difficult, but it is not impossible. You just have to make sure that you are communicating what that brand is when you are dealing with those marketing materials, and not let the two overlap, unless, of course, you can come up with an umbrella brand. For example, Nike has a line of women's clothes. They have the basketball stuff, they have running stuff, they have lots of different lines, but Nike is the overarching brand, it's sort of the umbrella brand, and that brand personality is always the same. They are empowering and just do it, no matter whether they're talking about women's or whether they are talking about the basketball world or whatever. So depending on whether you can have an umbrella brand, you need to manage your brands. If you focus on one brand on that website, make sure that that brand is all focused and communicating what that brand is. But if you are mixing your messages, that can be harder. Now, I do have some people where they have their personal name is their website. So in my case, it would be rahnabarthelmess.com. Now, I just redirect that to your branding edge. But if you have multiple brands, you could have your name as your website, and then you could have something on that landing page where you could say, if you want to talk about this, go to this website, and you want to talk about that, go to that website, and manage those two brands. But if the brands are unrelated, then you want to keep them separate. Okay, so the next question is, if I'm in a corporate job, do I really need to worry about my personal brand? I deal with people who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and corporate people, especially when you want to get promoted or when you get into those higher levels. You need to develop a name for yourself. Now, your name is not going to be associated with some company that you're forming or some app that you made, but your personal brand is your reputation, what you are known for, what kind of a leader are you. And so you want to make sure that you are actively managing your brand in those cases, especially a lot of times I work with CEOs where they're new and they're just getting established, and they need to kind of make a name for themselves and be known to their own organization and, of course, outside of their organization. And so, yes, even somebody in a corporate job needs to manage their brand. If you have a question, feel free to just chime in. Here's another question. In your course, you talk about strengths and weaknesses. How much time should I spend on my weaknesses? So we all have strengths and weaknesses. We have things that are meant for us to express, things that we do just as easily as breathing. And there are things that we struggle to do. And so you need to understand your weaknesses, but you really need to focus on your strengths. Your strengths are where your money is going to be made. This is why someone is going to hire you. When they do a job interview, they're going to see, yes, this person has experience in this or has a passion for that. They're going to hire you for that. If you're trying to get a client, you want to make sure that that client is hiring you for your strength. Now, as you're evaluating yourself and trying to figure out what to focus on, you want to understand your weaknesses, and maybe there is something in your weaknesses that you can do to shore up. Maybe you take a class. I struggle with technology, and so I would like to make sure that I know the minimum amount of what I need to know for technology, but I'm not going to bill myself as a technological guru. I want the technology to work, but that's not my focus. I want to know about those tools, but I'm going to outsource that to someone else. So you may need to take a course or find someone who can help you with your weaknesses, but don't spend a lot of time focusing on that. You want to focus on your strengths because that's how you're best going to build your brand. So I see someone else has joined the call, the person from 613. Can you tell me who that is?
Hello, I believe that would be Anne from Ottawa. I just joined.
Yes,
hi there.
Hi. I'm so glad you could join.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about your brand.
Well, struggling to find it.
Okay.
I am a soon-to-be author, published author, but I am in the area of grief coaching. I'm just certified as a heartbreak to happiness coach. So there's a number of things going on. So who am I?
Well, that's cool. Well, congratulations on getting the certification and, of course, the book. That's terrific. That's exciting, and you're just developing your brand. So that's great.
Thank you.
So, if I were grieving, why would I hire you? I'm just going to do a little spot coaching here for a minute, if that's okay.
Wow, put me on the hot seat. I just joined. Why would you hire me? Well, that's a very good question, because death or loss is very normal. So why do you need help in getting through it? Well, we have never really been taught how to, and very often we can get stuck because we don't know how to get out. We don't know how to deal with our emotions. We don't know how to deal with the loss. It's all very overwhelming, and there are times when you just need that support, and it's your thinking and slight behavioral modifications, which is where coaching that I have comes in to sort of help you so that you don't get stuck. Apparently it was reported in Time magazine about a few years ago that often people can get stuck in grief after a death for 5 to 8 years. That's an awful long time. Yeah, a long time to put your life on hold, isn't it?
That is a long time. So now, how did you choose the Heartbreak to Happiness model?
It chose me.
Tell me about that.
It was as simple as that. Yeah, I had retired. 4 days later, I saw this ad for the Grief Coach Academy in Los Angeles, Aurora Winter, and on it was authoring a book. Well, as my dad had died very suddenly about a year, so I can talk from experience of how I felt.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if I can do this, because I've got previous nurse training, I was a British trained nurse before coming to Canada, and I figured if I could get caught in grief's abyss, which is the name of my book, funnily enough, then others probably could as well. So that program just spoke to me.
That's great. That's great.
More about it, yeah.
And so let me ask you, does this program, do they offer support? Are they building their brand? Are they giving you materials to help build the brand?
They do a bit in the marketing, absolutely, but not to the depth that I'm now delving into. It's, very surface. It's like you've got to grow into something. You try it out, and then you realize, okay, I need to delve a little deeper. And I'm now in that process of, I guess, my business building, that I now need to go deeper to understand the branding concepts and a little bit about me and what it is I'm actually offering, and why would somebody want to choose me over, another coach? What are my strengths? This sort of thing.
Right. You're in an interesting situation, and this is true for anyone else who is listening, who may be a coach who's been certified by someone else, by some other program, where you have a little bit of a dual branding going on. And so you have the brand of you, so who is Anne and what does she have to bring to this, and then you have the brand of Heartbreak to Happiness. So
that's exactly it.
It gives you a bit of credibility, to say I've gone through this formal coaching, and I think that will bring some things to you, and certainly on your website you could talk about that, how that is important and needs to be done. But much of what you'll be doing is building your personal brand in this. A little bit earlier, maybe before you got on the call, we were talking about, if I'm an entrepreneur and I have a company, do I build my company brand or do I build my personal brand? And I was saying it's a balance. And so in your case as well, you need to, what I would do is I would use the Heartbreak to Happiness Grief Coaching Academy as a maker's mark. So for example, because I came from the corporate world, I look at everything and I compare everything to how corporate brands are done. So in this case, Nabisco has that little triangle that they put in the corner of all their cookies, or Kellogg's. So there's Kellogg's and then there's Frosted Flakes. So they are focused on Frosted Flakes, but they do have the Kellogg's logo to let you know that it's from Kellogg's. So their marketing efforts are on Frosted Flakes, but the brand is there as a maker's mark. So I would say for your Heartbreak to Happiness branding, that's a maker's mark, but that your focus should be on you and what you have to bring and how you'll be different. And so that will be great as you wrote this book, and that'll be terrific to see what you bring.
Yeah, that's the piece I should have had this last week, as I sort of have two websites. I've got my business one, and then I've got one. I was going to do it for the book, but then I thought probably I needed to have it, with my name, so that my name becomes part of my brand. So that was my thinking. That was my latest thinking.
Yeah. So you have a website, what with your name.com, and then you have one for your business?
Yes. Yeah, so one is sort of my coaching, and then the other one is me, and I'm promoting the book. That's sort of at the moment. Right.
I actually was talking about this just before you got on. And so it can be difficult to manage multiple websites. And so as you're starting out, I would encourage everyone to own your name. So I own RahnaBarthelmess.com. I redirect it to my to yourbrandingedge.com, but I own that. And so everybody should own their name. But the question is, do you need to manage that as an active website, or can you just redirect it to your About Us page? I think when you're starting out, you could redirect it. Now, the question is, are you going to write multiple books? Now, maybe you are. If you plan to be, a superstar author with 20 books, you may want to focus just on your name. But if you want to focus on your coaching and have the book be a piece of it, it could be a page. It should definitely be, whether you manage two websites or not, it should definitely be a page on your coaching website, because the fact that you're an author gives you additional credibility, and people are going to come to your website, see that, and they're going to go, oh, yeah, she wrote a book, and they'll often go get the book and still want to coach with you then as well.
Okay.
But if you're just starting out, I don't want you to get overwhelmed with, how am I going to manage all these different things?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can just own the URL and have it redirect, and then when you are a massive superstar, then you can launch another website.
Oh, I like how you're pointing me in that direction. I think I'm quite comfortable where I am for now. I'll need to grow into the other. Baby steps.
Well, yes. And there are definitely things that because you are focused on your personal brand, even though you would have the website for your coaching, you should put yourself prominently on the website. So there are different ways that you could do that. But again, we're trying to build a personal brand. So you could have a video that launched right when people land that says, hi, I'm Ann. Are you struggling with this? Let me tell you a little bit about my story. Just what you would say to someone when you first met them and they ask, what do you do and what do you believe? You might include in that video your philosophy of why are you doing what you're doing, because that will resonate with people and will be from your heart, and they will feel that authenticity. But doing things where you are prominent. Now, I will say a lot of people also say, well, I don't want to I don't like the way I look. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too this. I'm not enough that. And I would say it doesn't matter. When you think about the people that you love in your world, everyone has a grandmother. Now, from a Hollywood perspective, your grandmother might not be somebody that Hollywood would cast in, a film about all the beautiful people. But you may feel that your grandmother is a beautiful person, and you're right, just not in the physical sense. But everybody needs to just realize that what is going to be expressed in the video is, here's who you are. They're going to see, you can see in someone's eyes when they're being authentic, and it just takes it to a different level. If you're not comfortable with video, you could do just a voiceover on a PowerPoint, and that would still get across your voice. And, you have this lovely British accent. That's always nice for Americans. So, those sorts of things can make a difference. And they are subtle little nuances that communicate something about you when you're not even aware that it's being communicated. You're just being you. And yet there are ways that you say things and little things that you do, and that can be communicated through your website. It's a way to build your personal brand while building your business at the same time.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
I don't. This is just a little bit overwhelming. It needs a little bit of time to settle.
Yeah. People say, okay, well, can I build my personal brand? How long will this take? And the answer is it can take 5 minutes and it can take a lifetime. Your personal brand is never done. It's sort of like, okay, well, when will I be grown up? There's always something else to learn and grow, and so I advocate actively managing your personal brand. And what I mean by that is it is the work of a lifetime. It is something that you're going to manage all your life. And it is something where whether you are a public figure with a business and promoting yourself, or whether you are just, I don't know, a stay-at-home mom and never leaves the house and is just dealing with the kids. Everyone has a personal brand, and so actively managing it will help you. You're going to grow. That's not a question. You are going to grow, and so growing purposefully, I think, allows you to grow in the way that you want to grow, and it also allows you to become known in the areas where you want to become known. And it is not something that needs to be overwhelming. I think a lot of people think, I need this big marketing plan. And yes, you can. I mean, I have worked with people to develop a marketing plan for themselves. But oftentimes it's, let's just add this one thing, or let's just do this one little thing. And they do that, and then they can do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so your brand can blossom and grow sort of bit by bit. And that's fine.
Okay, that's good to know. I don't have to have it all done today.
No, you do not. Absolutely, you do not.
Okay, good to know. Thanks so much for the personal coaching. I was not expecting it, but I appreciate it.
Oh, that's fine. I love to help people, and I think other people find benefit when they listen to someone, okay, here are my challenges. Someone else is going to learn from your challenges.
That's true, yeah. Hopefully. Thank you.
Okay. So here's another question that someone has asked. This is someone who got the Target Audience Profile Builder, and they're saying, is every aspect important? So I am very thorough. And so when I would work in the corporate world, I was a brand manager for Lego Toys and Miracle Grow Plant Food and big brands, and we took years to build a brand. So when I had a new product that would be going on the market, we would start anywhere from 4 to 6 years in advance. And those we would evaluate. We would come up with the idea, and then you have focus groups, and you do research, and you develop a commercial, and then you research that, and you get feedback on that, and all along you're refine, because you're going to spend millions of dollars on the marketing efforts and investing in these products, and so you have to research all along the way, and so you end up researching and trying to understand every nuance of your target audience, top, down, side, all of that. And so you want to understand all the nuances. And so because that's the world that I came from, when I developed the Target Audience Profile Builder, I put in all sorts of questions. So I asked about demographics and psychographics, and what do they think, and what do they feel, and what are they motivated by, and what are they not motivated by, all these different things. So there may be some aspects that are more critical to you. Your target audience may be women who are going through menopause. Well, okay, then age as a defining piece is going to be more critically important as an element than if you were someone who was targeting people who like to go running, or people who love movies. So sometimes your target audience is defined by an age, sometimes it's by an interest, sometimes it's by something that has happened to them. So I'll use Anne's case. Grief counseling can happen to anyone at any point. Now, there may be a higher propensity for people who are older, but everybody has grief, has to address the challenge of grief. And so when you are filling out the Target Audience Profile Builder, go through all of the questions, but if a question doesn't apply to you, then just sort of skip over it, or just, okay, yeah, that one doesn't apply in this particular case, and then move on. So you don't have to feel like every single question has to apply to you. Some are just not going to apply, and that's fine. But I ask the question to make sure that I'm very thorough, that in some cases it is going to apply, and in other cases it's not. So hopefully that was helpful. The next question is, what if I have multiple targets? The most likely thing is that you will have multiple targets. It's very rare that you have just one target. Now, there are some that are your primary target and maybe a secondary target, but let's say that you are selling something that is a manufacturing item, and so you are going to an industrial purchasing agent. Well, you're going to have that purchasing agent as your target audience, and you're going to want to understand what drives them, what are they interested in, what are their purchasing criteria, what do they care about, that kind of thing. But they also may have an executive assistant who they run everything by, somebody who's just a trusted advisor, and that person is going to be an influencer. And so in a way, you need to think about, okay, that's another target audience. If you are a nonprofit, you may have the people that you serve. A food pantry that I worked with. So they had the people that would come, that would use the services of the food pantry. Then there was also the volunteers. They wanted to have people come and help them stock the shelves and do what needed to be done. Then they have those who are donating the food. That's another target audience that they have. And they probably have a board that they need to answer to as well. And then their own employees. So there, even in that case, there are several different target audiences that you're going to need to manage for different messaging. Now, there should be an overall umbrella message that is sort of a red thread through everything, but your individual messages will be targeted to whatever is motivating someone. The reason that someone is motivated to come to a food pantry as the recipient of the service is very different than the person who is the volunteer. But they are both highly, highly charged emotions and or can be. And so you want to make sure that when you are communicating to them that you understand the nuances of that person and why they are motivated to do what they do. So most likely you're dealing with multiple targets. You may have the person that you are coaching, if you're a coach, and then you may have the spouse who is involved in the financial decision to hire you, who may be skeptical about, what help can you provide, or, maybe a hindrance, but they add a dynamic, even if they are not a part of the straight up communications, they add a dynamic that you need to be aware of. And so those multiple target audiences need to be dealt with. And so when you are developing that, you need to manage what's the overall message that I'm giving that needs to be pervasive across all, and what am I specifically talking about when I'm talking to this particular target audience. Okay, the next question, I am trying to refine my business, and I'm not sure exactly what business decisions to make. I have different ways that I can go. Not really specific, but I would say in general, I am driven by two different aspects whenever I am building a brand. I'm driven by what I believe that brand could be, should be, and what I'm going to put out there, put forth. And then a huge element is I'm driven by what the target audience thinks, feels, believes, and needs. And so if you are unsure about business decisions that you need to make, ask your target audience. Now, if you're a corporation, you're going to do formal focus groups for tens of thousands of dollars, and that you will get clarity. But if you are a solopreneur, then ask someone who has helped you, who you have helped. Ask them, what did you like about this, or why did you choose this, that, or the other thing? Just ask them questions. People want to help you. And so don't feel that it needs to be some big, complicated survey. Just ask them. It can be in an individual email. I mean, you could set up a SurveyMonkey survey if you'd like. I just did a survey this morning. Someone is getting ready to launch a book, and I'm on his list. And so he said, I just have a quick question. I have these two titles. I'm trying to choose which title. And so could you take 20 seconds? Now, I'm sure he sent that to a lot of people who didn't answer him, but he did get some answers. And so I took 20. It literally took me 15 seconds to click on the one that I liked better, and then I was done. So you can ask people for their opinion. If you don't have a formal email list, then look in your emails, just in your life. I'm sure there are at least 5 to 10 people that would help you make your decision. You could send them an email, say, hey, I'm thinking about this and looking at that, and what should I do? And just get that feedback. So always your target audience can drive your business decision. That's a really easy one. Okay, so another question that I have here. How can I create my own brand without going through a large expense? What are some of the suggested key tasks? Are there any formalized programs, tests, quizzes, other? You indicated that one can gather great insight from family, friends, and colleagues, but what's the next step? How can one then summarize or visualize this information into a brand? Okay, So I'm not sure if you're talking about your personal brand or developing a company brand, but I can give you a couple of thoughts either way. If you're talking about your personal brand, then you already have a brand. Everybody does. And there are activities that you can do to build your personal brand that don't necessarily cost money, just time and effort. Is there a formalized program? Yes. I have an online course that I offer that you can do at your leisure in the middle of the night or whenever, that has worksheets and video tutorials that go along with it. So if you want, send me an email and I can send you the link to that. It's on the website, personal branding course, for yourbrandingedge.com. But if you're talking about building a company brand, that's a different story. You still need to think through the same strategic concepts that you would for a personal brand, but there are other things to think through. If you're talking about developing a logo, then I would suggest identify what you want the brand to be and then talk to a graphic designer to help with the visual representation of that brand. To me, a logo is not a brand, it is a visual representation of the brand. The brand is an idea, it's a concept. Whether you're talking about a personal brand or a company brand, the overarching strategies and processes are the same. There's a few different aspects to what you're asking, the strategic thinking and development of a graphic treatment, but here are some of the major steps that I would go through. Number one, determine what your brand is and what you want it to be. Second, do a deep dive to understand your target audience. Then I would develop a creative brief that discusses what are the overall objectives, what are the strategies, and the other particulars. That's the document that would be given to the graphic designer to develop visuals. It would include things like, what's the tone? Do you want to be on the cutting edge of cool, or do you want to be friendly and warm? Do you want to be seen as comfortable and sort of old-fashioned, kind of a throwback? So all of that information would be in a creative brief. And then once you've done that, then outline a marketing plan that identifies where and how best to convey that brand. And that plan should be driven by your research and your understanding of your target audience. It's kind of difficult to summarize in a short answer, but those are a couple of things. I hope that helps. The decision to go it alone versus teaming up with someone or a group that either complements or adds to what I'm capable of doing. Okay, so several people have had the question about the branding impact of going it alone versus teaming up with others, either a person or group that complements or adds to your capabilities. And there is definitely an interplay between brands. It can be very positive or very negative. The clients you choose to work with also builds or degrades your brand over the course of time. So the best thing to do here is to explore the pros and cons of teaming up. If there's someone that you know that can add to what you have to offer to your clients, it can be really powerful. I'm a firm believer that 1 + 1 can equal more than 3. If you pair two amazing people, you generally get more than what each person could provide on their own. And that can also be true for organizations. So, for example, if you are going to go get funding for your business, if you are a brand name franchise, if you're trying to get funding for a McDonald's, that's going to have bigger weight than if you are just, Joe's hamburger stand. So there is definitely a positive impact that can come from being associated with an organization. The conversation that we were having earlier with Anne, where she got certification through a program, well, that's going to add credibility to her brand. So there's a couple of key elements that you could consider. How well do you know this? Do you know them personally? How long have they been in business, or how long have you known them? If you're not deeply familiar with them, then do your homework. Do they come highly recommended? What is written or said about them in social media or the news? You want to understand their brand just as much as yours, because it's going to have this impact on your brand by association. So there are a couple of pros and cons. The pros of being on your own is you're free to build your brand the way you see. You make your own schedule. You choose your own clients, and you can choose your methodology for doing things. And the success is all you. But the cons are you have to do all the brand building work. You have to bear the total financial burden, and you have to get your own clients, and you have to generate ideas. And just as the successes are all you, the failures are all yours as well. So those are the pros and cons of being on your own. The pros and cons of joining with a partner is that you'll benefit from their existing brand perception. Oftentimes there's more helping hands to do the work and get clients. Maybe they have a website that gets leads for you, and then they feed those leads to you. You get to share in the successes with someone else, and if you're an extrovert, usually you like working with other people. But the cons of joining with a partner is that you'll suffer any negative associated with their brand. So if something happened, if they got bad news, a bad PR, that would impact your business. And you need to consider someone else's time when you're scheduling work and their thoughts. If you have marketing materials, you may need to go through their approval processes and that sort of thing. Of course, you'd have to share in the profits, and if things aren't going well, sometimes those relationships can get strained. And the last thing, the franchise. If this organization that you're thinking about is a franchise, there is a strength of their existing processes, their brand recognition. It's all done for you. It's tied up in a bow, but you have to abide by their franchise rules. So those are just a couple of things to think about as you decide whether you want to go alone and build your brand, or whether you want to brand with someone else. So those are all the questions that I have. Does anyone else have any other questions? I'll just wait for one more minute. All right. Well, I am so happy to be working with you to help build your brand. I wish you all the success this next month, and we will see you on the call. The call is the first Wednesday of every month, and I'll send out an email in advance. But until we talk again, here's to your branding success.